But let's talk about the Melbourne Cup. Two parts here. I'm sure we all agree. Tomorrow, if you're putting a bet on, make the same donation. Somewhere else would be a nice thing to see. But also there's this X factor of protesters. What's the betting odds on whether protesters will disrupt the Melbourne Cup? We'll wait and see, but here's a preview of it tonight from the 6 p.m. news.
They were cheered and jeered, even when children were riding in the cars. Hundreds of animal activists lined a section of the route. But some of the parade participants hit back at the ugly chants. Revelations of horse cruelty have cast a shadow over this Cup carnival.
Today we want everyone to say no to the Cup. We want everyone to boycott horse racing, never go to the races anymore, never place a bet.
Police had horses of their own to ensure the protest didn't get out of hand.
Don't go to the Cup, don't bet on the Cup.
Some demonstrators had to be restrained by police at the conclusion of the parade.
We've got a spot for you all.
Protesters didn't go so far as to block the parade today, but police fear they could be planning much more serious disruptions tomorrow for the tens of thousands heading to Flemington.
Now, Janine, I was watching you this afternoon, as a dutiful friend would do, and I noticed you, when asked for a Cup tip, said, I'm not doing it this year.
I'm not. Well, look, I've never been a huge supporter of betting and getting carried away with all of it. I mean, when I was in Melbourne, I did, but the way it's carried on in Sydney with the women in their frocks and hats. You're
not a fascinator kind of girl.
Yeah, no, look, that's fine. If everybody wants to ruin productivity by taking the afternoon off, it's not an official holiday. But look, it's not just because
Curmudgeon.
I am. Look, I'm working tomorrow, so I didn't really want to encourage anyone to not be watching me on the show. But no, I don't feel the same excitement this year, though I do believe there's a tradition for the Melbourne Cup. I'm more pro the Melbourne Cup than the Sydney efforts to try and do another one. 150 years of tradition, I'll give it. But I'm not going to get upset on these protesters. So long as they behave, they didn't block the route, they don't get violent. There's always been a small cabal of anti-horse racing protesters there. So long as they don't do anything wrong, well, sure they can.
And in previous years, that serial pest at one point was running out, not in front of, but behind the horses. Yeah. Do you think that what do you think tomorrow, if protesters bugger up the Melbourne Cup or its surrounds, how does Australia react?
Well, I think with horror, because this is a great national day. It's got a great history to it. But I think someone should put a horse in the race called Super Glue. Super Glue is sticking to the rails. You know, the Melbourne Cup's a great day. As we said before about Extinction Rebellion and other such mobs, they simply show how stupid they are, and they simply show the rest of Australia how dangerous these sort of left-wing activists are. So the more noise they make, unfortunately, the more harm they do to their own causes. But, Richo, the assumption is that the stuff on Channel 2 a couple of weeks ago has fired a few people up, and there's a new impetus to have...
I mean, people sort of talk a good game on things like that, but there's not a game being played on that. You walk down the Pitt Street Mall this afternoon and ask people what happened on the ABC a couple of weeks ago to do with racehorses. How many of them do you reckon give a rat's?
Not many.
Not many.
And certainly if you go to Parramatta, Westfield, and if you go further out, the less stuff they give. But
your female friends will all be crowded in King Street, Newtown. They won't go where ordinary people go.
It's not just that. There are a lot of women I know, and not just women, but a lot of people who aren't mad on that and who were disturbed by it and are very strong on animal welfare and have never been mad on racing. I think that just... probably consolidated their view.
And they have the discussion sitting around tucking into their spring
lamb. Probably do.
And their prawns and their lobsters and all the rest.
It's a free country. They can do what they want.
All right. Well,
hypocrisy allowed too.
They've got such examples in their leaders. I mean, Zali, you can't find an electric car where the tall kids can fit in it, please.
I mean, these days you can't have... And I think this is tragic. You can't have drunken prawns cooked at your table anymore because it's such a cruel thing. And I always say these prawns are dying in such a good cause.
Exactly. And happy. Probably the best time of their lives.
I must say, I always felt a little bit irksome when we'd go to the Noble Terrace restaurant, just up the road from where we are here, by the way, in North Ryde in Sydney, and my old mate JD, he would always order a lobster. I always felt a little bit weird seeing the live lobster being yanked out of the tank. So I can understand the prawns, but I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss, Richo.